Hi everyone, let's talk about Valletta. So this is a really solid, fast-playing, on the lighter side, maybe medium light. I wouldn't really say it's a filler game or a really light one or anything like that, but it is very fast, quite quick to teach as well. You are just really, the rulebook is just a kind of fold-out page, and then it has a separate booklet for the card things. I don't really see why they did that because it wouldn't be a very long rulebook even if it was one great big thing, but it is quite a simple game to teach the way that the rulebook is divided shows that the interaction and the main rules of the game are in the cards themselves and how they interact with each other. The actual system is just, draw this many cards, play this many cards, repeat until the end, and then the end changes things a little bit. The art, really like Clemens Fran's art, and I think there's something warm and nostalgic when you sit down to a game like this. It has that Euro feel when it's got the layout and the art from that you expect from him. It reminds me of going back to when I first got Agricola. It's always had that feeling when I sit down and things are like this. From the rule book as well. Everything's got a very familiar feel to it. But about the art and things, the game itself. So yeah, I really like that it's got this kind of deck builder feel, while not really being a deck builder. You are buying these buildings. You're trying to get not control of an area, but if you build together, you're going to get discounts. So you really want to do that. But there are lots of things pulling you in different directions, which is quite nice as well. Where Valletta is on the track, do you want to build there to get some bonus points, even though you might not have buildings anywhere near there? You would like, ideally, to start off with the green cheap buildings that are next to some blue buildings, so you can build those as well, which will give you powers to let you afford the yellow buildings. But it doesn't always work like that, because you shuffle up these buildings and you don't know how they're going to come out. And in this case, all of the cheap buildings are really far along, so you're not going to wait until the end of the game until Valletta is over here to build those. So you're not going to get the bonus points for that. But it is very important to watch out for where he's going, and has your opponent just played their card that's going to move him? Is he going to go out of the column that you desperately need him to go into? Should you build now because that's a risk? Or do you know that you've got the key to when he moves again, so you're going to build and then you're going to move him so that no one can get the benefit of the column that they desperately need? I really like that. I think the variant is important that I mentioned, where you only put these barrels on every other space rather than every space, because if you set it up like normal in the rulebook, he barely moves in a two-player game. He gets to halfway maybe, and he's supposed to be an endgame trigger, one of the 3 endgame triggers. So I think taking those away is really important. It does kind of change that some columns are going to have 3 barrels and some are going to have 2, just because of the way that works. But I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue, because he still hasn't got to the end of the track in our games. He's just gotten closer. It's become a possibility rather than, it's just never going to happen. The cards, there is a lot of different types in the game. I'm not sure quite how many. You did see a lot of them here. The main differences are the resources are all, I think there's 3 different buildings of each resource, and depending on how they come out in each game, it's going to change the availability of each of those resources. There will be cards that, like the seamstress that gets 2 of anything, and take 3 goods of one type, but everyone else gets 1 as well. Things like that are nice, but the general green things of get this many good can change the flow of the game, because in our first game, none of the gold ones came out. And gold was quite scarce. We had to get the seamstress to be able to get it, and you could only generate a couple at a time. If you can get these green workers that are for every icon that you've got, get 1 of that resource, and you can get a lot of different buildings that don't necessarily have anything to do with gold. The blue and the yellow buildings, if they have gold symbols on, and you can get it all upgraded, just 1 of those cards can be massively powerful and give you a ton of resources, which is perfect because you don't necessarily have to specialize them, because if you can just generate tons and tons of it and maybe use the apprentice to double it, it's a 3-to-1 wild card. You can exchange it for other things. It's not ideal because you're wasting a lot. 3 resources at the end of the game is a point. So it's not always ideal to do it, but it gives you options, and that's what it's all about, really. So the blue cards give you all sorts of different powers. They're going to change up, the type of resource they give you a discount on. Do you take 2 goods, or do you take 3 and have to give everybody else 1 of whatever you pick? There are a few of these cards here, which, this one is each opponent with more than 2 of anything has to give you 1 that of that type. If they've got 3 wood, they need to give you 1. So there's a few things like that. If they've got more than 2 of this, they need to give you some of it. And we don't like that in games. It's very much, I understand it's very much on the softer side of mean cards. But in a 2-player game, it's balanced as well because they're going to be less powerful, but you do get to take some from the supply as well to balance out that deficit. But yeah, we never play with those. So that reduces the variability, which I think is the only real issue I have with this, because the slightly mean cards aren't really an issue because we can just take them out. But I wonder, even with the variability that it's got and the differences, the slight differences in the cards, the only thing I worry about is if it's got the long-term replayability for us. If they're going to be coming out with just little packs of cards, because the buildings correspond to the cards. It's quite nice how you set. It takes a little longer to set up than it normally would because you shuffle all these buildings up and then they've got little letters. I don't know if you can see there. The letter signifies which worker you need to find out of the deck, and then you set it all up that way. If we could get more of those, then I think that it would solve that problem. As it is, with us taking a lot of these, not a lot, but a decent number of these blue cards will never be in our games, I wonder about how much variability will be in it for us anyway. But in a game with more players, and this is true of most games, as soon as you put a 3rd player in the mix, it solves some of those problems, because just having the interplay between all of those players will generate a lot of differences in the game anyway. And that's true for another, it's not a really big issue, but it's a little one, that because of the neighbouring bonus and everything, you tend to kind of go on one side and just build on that one side in a 2-player game. There is always a little bit of crossover if there's something really cheap or you desperately need something up there, but generally you will be separated into your sides in a normal game. And maybe that's just us, maybe it's us that needs to drive ourselves out of there, but it is an easy thing to fall into. And even though there are more cards as soon as you add more players into it, I think that as soon as you have got a 3rd player, and even more so with a 4th player, as soon as you've got a 3rd player in the mix, it's going to break that up. You can't kind of have a monopoly on one of the sides, because there is, even with a few more buildings out, there's going to be more to fight for, and just people getting in your way, intentionally or not. Just having more people there making their own decisions is going to disrupt what you're doing and make it more interesting and different every time. So that's the only real concern, that with not a huge number of cards and just being 2 of us, I'm not sure if it will have the long-term variability, but we'll see about that. As for the game, I really enjoyed the system itself. It's very, very simple, but gives you a lot of interesting decisions. With those 5 cards, usually there is a lot to think about. Sometimes you only have resource cards and it's pretty simple what you're going to play, because you're just going to get a resource no matter what you play. But trying to plan ahead and see which building's available, where's Valletta going to be, if I build this, then that's going to give me a discount on this building next, and that's going to give me this power that might let me build the building next to it next, which is going to give me a load of points when I can play these yellow cards, and then maybe I can upgrade it and double the points. Some really, really nice things going on in this game, but you can watch the playthrough and see how it plays for yourself. That is Valletta. Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you for the next game. Bye.